Everything is arranged. The house closes at the end of the month. Everything except my consent. Mama, stop making this harder. We are trying to keep you hired movers before you
sign the acknowledgement, Miss Lillian. Monica already has the authority to handle this for you.
You gave me power of attorney. You cannot keep pretending nothing has changed.
My daughter sold my house before she told me she planned to put me in memory care. It happened on the second anniversary of my husband's death, while movers labeled my furniture and my son-in-law poured champagne over a deal worth $4.8 million. Monica called it protection. Terrence called it planning. Then he slid the closing packet across my dining room table and asked me to sign an acknowledgement. I had spent 40 years examining property records, and the first thing I saw was not the price. It was the buyer's address. The company had been created 11 days earlier, and its registered office matched a law firm Terrence had used before. The second thing I saw was worse. The packet claimed Monica signed for me at Warren Pike's office at 10 that morning. I knew for certain she had been sitting in my kitchen until noon. I said nothing. I let them believe my silence meant confusion. Then my granddaughter touched the yellow tab inside the packet and would not meet my eyes. I understood two things. Someone in my family was trying to warn me, and the sale was only the first transaction. I signed only the line confirming that I had received a copy. Terrence watched my hand as if he expected it to shake. It did not. The arthritis in my right thumb had made my handwriting slower, but slow and uncertain are not the same thing. That distinction would matter before the month was over. "Where will the bedroom set go?" I asked. Monica looked relieved. She had been braced for an argument. "The memory care center has storage for the first 30 days, she said. "After that, we can decide what to keep." "And Calvin's work table?" Terrence answered before she could. "The movers can put it with the other shop equipment. None of that needs to follow you." I looked at him across the table. He wore a charcoal jacket with no tie, the costume of a man who wanted everyone to believe business had been interrupted by family. A green leather notebook rested beside his elbow. When one of the movers brushed the table and knocked his phone against it, Terrence caught the notebook first. "When does the sale close?" I asked. "The last Friday of the month," he said. "Everything is arranged, everything except my consent." Monica touched my wrist. "Mama, you gave me power of attorney after the hospital. We are not trying to hurt you. We are trying to make sure you are safe." I asked how much the room at the center cost. $7,400 a month, she said. "The deposit is $18,000, and they cannot hold the room forever." Terrence gave her a nod. Monica was my daughter, but in that room she was also his witness. If your own family had already hired movers and signed papers behind your back, would you confront them before they could hide the evidence? Or would you let them believe you were confused long enough to learn what they had done? Tell me which choice you would make. Because I had less than 3 weeks before they expected me to disappear quietly. I chose to let them underestimate me. My name is Lillian Mae Price. I was 68 years old that October, and I had lived in that house in Orange Mound since Ronald Reagan's first year in office. Calvin and I bought it when the roof leaked over the back bedroom and the kitchen floor leaned enough to roll a marble from the stove to the pantry. We paid $38,000 for it, which felt like a king's ransom to us then. Calvin upholstered car seats and repaired torn vinyl at a shop 2 blocks away. I examined property titles for banks, law firms, and insurance companies. We were not rich, but we were patient. Patience bought the shop parcel in 1984. It bought the first rental house 9 years later. It bought the empty lot beside the alley in 2001, when everyone else said there was nothing useful to do with it. The corner parcel came last, in 2014. 5 pieces of ground, 2 lifetimes of overtime, 1 family story written in county records. Calvin died on October 12th, 2 years before the movers came. He had spent the last afternoon of his life sorting brass upholstery tacks into baby food jars because he said a man should leave his tools where the next person could find them. That was Calvin. He could turn organization into affection without ever admitting that was what he was doing. Monica was our only child. She had her father's shoulders and my habit of pressing her lips together when she was scared. She became a registered nurse. Then, a case management supervisor at a rehabilitation hospital. She knew how to arrange home care, medication schedules, transportation, and every form a frightened family might face after a medical crisis. In March, I gave her a reason to be frightened. I had a urinary infection and did not know it. I stopped drinking enough water because swallowing hurt, then stood up too quickly in the kitchen and found myself on the floor. For several hours at the hospital, I was confused. I called Monica by my sister's name. I asked for Calvin as if he were waiting in the parking lot. The infection cleared. So did the confusion. But fear does not always leave when the fever does. During my recovery, Monica brought me a durable financial power of attorney. She said it would let her pay bills if I became sick again. I read it, asked questions, and signed it. The original went into Calvin's locked deed drawer. Monica received a copy. What I did not do was cancel it after I recovered. That was my mistake. Not because I had lost the ability to manage my affairs, but because I assumed a document created for an emergency would remain inside the limits of love. Paper does not understand love. Paper understands authority. Terrence had married Monica in 2004. He worked as a commercial real estate capital broker, which meant he could make borrowed money sound like a natural resource. He was polished, attentive, and fond of explaining my old profession to me. Title work is different now, Miss Lillian, he once said. Everything is digital, so are lies, I told him. That only makes them faster, he laughed then. He did not laugh on the day of the movers. Nia, their 19-year-old daughter, stood near the doorway with a roll of labels in one hand. She had been helping me scan family photographs and old deeds into an online folder she called the Price Family Archive. She complained that my file names were too long. A long name is better than a document nobody can identify, I told her. That afternoon she did not tease me. She watched Terrence, then the yellow tab, then me. One mover reached for the brass key on Calvin's desk. A small metal tag hung from it. Calvin's deed drawer. Put that in storage, Terrence said. It does not open anything important. I took the key from the mover's palm. I will clear my husband's desk myself. For the first time, Terrence's expression changed. It lasted less than a second. Then the patient smile returned. Of course, he said. By sunset, the movers had taken 2 lamps, 3 boxes of winter clothes, and a side table Monica never liked. I let them go. Terrence believed motion meant progress. I knew better. Sometimes motion is only noise people make while the important thing remains exactly where it has always been. After they left, I locked the front door and listened to the house settle. Calvin used to say old houses complain after company leaves. A pipe clicked behind the kitchen wall. The refrigerator started its low hum. Somewhere upstairs, a cardboard box shifted under its own weight. I carried the brass key into Calvin's workroom. His desk was scarred along the front edge, where he had once clamped a seat frame too tightly. The drawer opened with a stubborn turn, then released. Inside were 5 deed folders, the original power of attorney, an old survey, tax receipts, and a white envelope with my name in Calvin's block handwriting. I opened the legal papers first. The copy Terrence had shown me ended after the signature page. The original did not. Behind it was an attached limitation sheet. Monica could pay bills, manage deposits, and sign routine documents if I could not act. She could not transfer real property to herself, her spouse, or any business connected to either of them without my separate written approval. I had never given that approval. The limitation page carried the same notary seal and the same staple marks as the rest of the document. Someone had not misunderstood it. Someone had removed it. Calvin's envelope could wait. I spread the closing packet beside the original power of attorney. Cypress Meridian Holdings was listed as the buyer. The company address was a suite on Poplar Avenue. I had seen that suite before, though I could not yet remember where. I made coffee and opened my laptop. The Tennessee business record showed Cypress Meridian had been organized 11 days earlier. Warren Paul Pike was the lawyer listed to receive official papers. No operating history. No public website. No owners named on the basic filing. Warren Pike was not a stranger. He had prepared documents for one of Terrence's apartment projects. 3 years earlier, Terrence had asked me to look at an easement problem on that deal. The invoice from Warren's office had carried the same suite number. A connection is not proof. I wrote that sentence at the top of a yellow pad. Then I wrote what I knew. New company, same lawyer, some suite, price property, power of attorney, missing a limitation page. Closing in 19 days. The next morning, Monica arrived with oatmeal and a voice memo. I made this so you can replay it if the details get mixed up, she said. There was kindness in her face, and that made the insult harder to answer. I pressed play. Her recorded voice explained that Cypress Meridian was independent, that no better offer existed, that $4.8 million was the highest realistic price, and that Terrence would receive no commission. Near the end, I heard Terrence in the background. Tell her the money keeps her safe for life. Monica repeated it almost word for word. Who diagnosed me as needing memory care? I asked. She blinked. Mama, this is not about a label. It is the name of the place you chose. They specialize in support for people with memory disease, for people who need supervision. Which doctor said I need that level of supervision? Her hands tightened around the oatmeal container. We all saw what happened in March. We also saw me recover. She looked toward the hallway, as if Terrence might appear even though he was not there. The room is available now, she said. The deposit holds it. If we wait, we may lose the option. There it was again. Not a medical decision. A deadline. I asked her to send me the voice memo. She did, believing it would help me remember. I saved 3 copies. That afternoon, I opened the Price family archive. Nia had organized photographs by year, deeds by parcel, and Calvin's shop records by decade. One file in the recent activity list did not follow our naming system. Final closing 2. When I clicked it, the screen said I did not have permission. A second later, the file vanished from the recent list. I checked the saved copy list. Nia's account had scanned it 4 days earlier. I did not call her. If Terrence was watching the folder, a frightened 19-year-old would be the easiest person to pressure. Instead, I went to the county records office the next morning. The clerk at the counter was young enough to call me ma'am 3 times in one sentence. I told him I had spent 4 decades on the other side of desks like his and only needed access to public records. He smiled and pointed me toward the terminals. I pulled every filing connected to the 5 parcels. There was no recorded sale yet. There was, however, a recently prepared lender search and a request tied to Cypress Meridian. The request referenced a bridge loan. Bridge loans are not mysterious. They are expensive money used when someone needs to cross from one transaction to another before the first has safely ended. They are also impatient. I printed the search reference. On the way home, I passed the memory care center Monica had chosen. The building was clean, landscaped, and quiet. A woman in pink scrubs helped an older man into a van. There was nothing cruel about the place. Terrence did not need a bad facility. He needed a respectable one that would make resistance look unreasonable. I parked and went inside. The admissions coordinator was careful. She would not discuss Monica's application without authorization. I asked only about general policy. Did every applicant need a medical assessment before admission to memory care? Yes. Could a room be permanently reserved with an $18,000 deposit before that assessment? No. A smaller, refundable reservation fee could hold a place briefly, but final placement required clinical review. When I asked the amount of the reservation fee, she said $2,000. Terrence had turned $2,000 into $18,000 because fear works better with larger numbers. I drove home without confronting Monica. The next day, Terrence stopped by with a folder of moving schedules. He spoke gently, as if loud words might break me. We should choose what goes with you, he said. I told him I wanted Calvin's reading chair and the blue dishes. That sounds good. And my title books. He paused. You will not need work materials there. They are mine. Of course. I only mean space is limited. He glanced at the desk. The brass key was no longer visible. I had placed it in my apron pocket. Before leaving, he set his green notebook beside the printer while he answered a call. Naya entered from the back porch, saw it, and stopped. Terrence returned before either of us moved. He closed the notebook and tucked it under his arm. That night, a photograph appeared in the archive under a file name that looked like one of Calvin's old invoices. It showed one page of the green notebook, 2 columns, 4.8, 12.6, October 31st, November 1st, and beneath them, written twice, the words Cure Riverside. The image disappeared 10 minutes later. Before I closed the archive, I checked the activity log again. Terrence's account had opened the folder twice after midnight. Nia's account had uploaded the photograph from her phone, renamed it, and removed it. The sequence told me she was not careless. She was leaving a trail narrow enough for me to follow, and hoping her father would see only a mistake. I printed the log as well. A picture could be dismissed as gossip. A pattern of access, deletion, and replacement could establish when fear entered the record and who had tried erasing it. I had already printed it. I called Solomon Reed the next morning. For most of my career, Solomon had been the lawyer on the other side of difficult title files. He marked margins in pencil, distrusted clean summaries, and once delayed a closing for 3 days because a widow's middle initial had changed between 2 deeds written 20 years apart. I had been annoyed with him then. I respected him now. He met me in a conference room above a pharmacy downtown. I placed the documents on the table in the order I had found them. The complete power of attorney, the shortened copy from Terrence, the Cypress Meridian filing, the bridge loan reference, Monica's voice memo, the photograph of the green notebook. Solomon read without interrupting. When he finished, he aligned the pages into a square stack. A power of attorney lets someone stand in your place, he said. It does not let them move you out of the way. Can we stop the sale? We can prepare to stop it. First, we separate what you suspect from what we can prove. He tapped the picture of Terrence's notebook. This is a lead. Not enough by itself. Then the company record. This is a relationship, not ownership. Then the missing limitation page. This is serious. He asked whether I had revoked Monica's authority. I said no. Do not do it from your kitchen, he said. We will prepare the revocation, deliver it correctly, and notify every party we can identify. Until then, do not sign anything beyond a receipt for documents. He also asked whether anyone had formally evaluated my decision-making ability since March. No. Then Terrence will make your mind the first issue. We should address it before he does. 2 days later, I sat across from Dr. Denise Holloway, a geriatric neuropsychologist with silver-framed glasses and a voice that never rushed to fill silence. She did not ask whether I felt competent. She asked me to explain the property, the proposed sale, the alternatives, and the consequences. I described all 5 parcels. I told her which house had a drainage easement, which rental needed a roof, and why the shop parcel mattered to a medical buyer assembling a larger site. I explained that $4.8 million could support me comfortably, but might still be unfair if a related party had concealed a higher resale contract. She asked what could happen if I refused every sale. Property taxes would continue. Repairs would continue. Some land might remain underused. My daughter might resent me. None of that gives her husband the right to choose the buyer in secret. She asked whether I needed help living alone. Some, I said. I no longer climb ladders. I should not drive at night. I sometimes forget whether I took my evening pill, so I use a dispenser with an alarm. Would accepting help mean you must leave your home? No. It means I should accept the right help. At the end, she folded her hands. Capacity is not a family vote. For this decision, you understand the property, the alternatives, and the consequences. I had not realized how tightly I was holding my shoulders until they lowered. The report would take several days. Solomon told me to keep acting normal. Normal, in my family, meant Monica bringing food I had not requested and Terrence arranging my future in 15-minute blocks. On Tuesday, I asked Nia to meet me at church. The sanctuary was empty except for a custodian changing light bulbs near the choir loft. Nia sat beside me in the third pew and kept both hands inside the sleeves of her sweatshirt. I saw the yellow tab, I said. Her eyes filled immediately. I am not asking you to confess to something. I am asking what you saw. Daddy asked me to scan 2 closing packets, she whispered. He said one was a draft. The first one had 4.8 million. The second had 12.6. The same property. The parcel descriptions looked the same. I checked because the file names were almost identical. Who was on the second packet? I only saw the logo. Street Gabriel Regional Health. Then Daddy came back and told me to delete the scan. Did you? From the computer, not from the saved copy list. And the notebook. I took the picture when he left it open. I did not know what Riverside meant. Why the yellow tab? She swallowed. The buyer address was on that page. I remembered you telling me addresses are harder to hide than names. That was something I had said while teaching her to organize old deeds. I had forgotten the conversation. She had not. Nia asked me not to tell her parents yet. Terrence paid part of her tuition. She lived under his roof. He had already told her that family business was not a subject for children. You are 19, I said. He means anybody who disagrees with him. I did not promise to keep her hidden forever. I promised I would not expose her before the evidence could protect itself. The name Street Gabriel gave me the next path. A health system planning a major facility leaves public footprints, even when negotiations are private. Planning agendas showed Street Gabriel had requested preliminary review for an outpatient center near the parcels. A traffic study described an access point beside Calvin's old shop. A proposed utility easement used measurements that matched our survey within a few feet. Cypress Meridian was not buying random family land. It was assembling a site for a known buyer. The $12.6 million made sense now. What did not make sense was how Terrence planned to receive the difference. Solomon found that Warren Pike had created Cypress Meridian for that one deal. Public records did not name the people who would profit from it, but a lender search referred to financial backing from Ellison Urban Strategies, Terrence's firm. Then Solomon found Riverside. Riverside Lofts was an apartment project Terrence had once described at Thanksgiving as fully stabilized. County records showed a large lien. A court filing from the lender showed an agreement delaying enforcement until the end of November. $3,100,000. That was the personal guarantee Terrence needed to cure. The photograph of his notebook carried the same word. Cure Riverside. There was still a gap. A lien showed pressure, not theft. A relationship with a shell company showed opportunity, not where the money would go. That gap narrowed when Solomon introduced me to Marjorie Bell at Tri-State Community Bank. Joe Bell was a senior financial protection officer. She had known my work years earlier, when we argued over whether a release had been indexed under the wrong subdivision name. She remembered the argument. I remembered being right. She listened while Solomon explained that a disputed real estate closing might involve financial exploitation of an older adult. She did not open a computer and hand us private bank records. Real life is not generous that way. I cannot tell you who is guilty, she said. I can preserve what the money was told to do. The bank could route the concern through its reporting and legal process. It could retain ledger entries, proposed wire instructions, account relationships, and communication connected to the bridge loan. What we needed immediately was not disclosure. It was preservation. Solomon prepared the request. That evening, Monica came to my house carrying soup. She found me at the dining table with no papers visible. Terrence says the center needs your final medication list, she said. The center told me final placement requires an assessment. Her face changed. You went there. I asked a general question. Mama, why are you making this harder? Because you decided the answer before anyone asked me the question. She set the soup down too hard. I am trying to keep you alive, and Terrence is trying to close a land sale. Those are not the same thing. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said Terrence had found the buyer, negotiated a fair price, and refused a commission because he was family. I asked whether she had ever seen a document identifying the owners of Cypress Meridian. No. Whether she had obtained an independent appraisal. Terrence said the property needed environmental work. Whether she knew Street Gabriel Regional Health was preparing a second closing. Her lips parted, but no sound came. That was the moment I knew Monica had not seen the $12.6 million figure. It did not absolve her. She had signed. She had hired movers. She had used the worst hours of my illness to explain away every clear hour since. But she had not known the full shape of the trap. Terrence had built his plan with three materials: his debt, my property, and my daughter's fear. I could prove the first two. The third would have to decide for itself what kind of woman it wanted to become. Solomon wanted the revocation signed before the weekend. I wanted Terrence to believe nothing had changed. That required care. I let the movers return for the dining room rug and 2 boxes of Christmas decorations. I told Monica the blue dishes could go to storage. I asked Terrence whether I should sign anything else before closing. He brought an acknowledgement stating that I had received information about the sale and my future residence. The language did not approve the deed, confirm the price, or waive objections. I signed it after making a copy. Terrence smiled. People often see what they need to see in a signature. The next morning, I signed the formal revocation of Monica's power of attorney in Solomon's office. Copies went by track delivery to Monica, Terrence, Warren Pike, the title company, the proposed lender, and the facility that had been told Monica controlled my placement decisions. Solomon filed an action asking the Chancery Court to determine the validity of the proposed transfer and prevent any disposition while the dispute was heard. He also recorded the required notice affecting title. That notice did not prove I was right. It did something more immediate. It warned any buyer or lender that the ownership was contested and that proceeding would carry risk. Dr. Holloway completed her report. It said I understood the nature and extent of the property, the proposed transaction, the available alternatives, and the likely consequences. It also recommended practical support for medication management, transportation after dark, and emergency planning. I read that part twice. Being right about Terrence did not make me right about everything. I had been using independence as a wall, and walls can hide danger as easily as they keep people out. I hired a home care aide for 2 mornings a week. I changed the emergency contacts on my medical file. I asked a neighbor to drive me to evening church events. Those choices belonged to me. Joe Bell confirmed through Solomon that the bank had preserved the relevant records and elevated the matter through its older customer protection process. She did not tell us what every account contained. She did confirm that the PlanBridge transaction and the Riverside deadline were close enough in time to justify concern. The pieces were no longer scattered. Cypress Meridian was tied to Terrence's lawyer. Its financing was supported through Terrence's business. It planned to buy my 5 parcels for $4.8 million. Street Gabriel planned to acquire the assembled site for $12.6 million the following day. Terrence had a $3,100,000 obligation due at the end of November. His notebook said Cure Riverside. The copy of my power of attorney used for the sale omitted the limitation against benefiting Monica, her spouse, or a connected company. Monica's own voice memo recorded Terrence representing the buyer as independent and denying any commission or interest. I did not need a dramatic confession. I needed the transaction to stop long enough for every record to be examined. 2 nights before closing, Naya called from the parking lot of a grocery store. "Daddy knows somebody accessed the archive history," she said. "Did he ask you?" "He asked everybody." I told him online systems keep backup copies automatically. "Can you stay with a friend for a few days?" I asked. She said she could stay with her roommate's family. "Take your identification, medication, school computer, and anything you cannot replace." "Grandma, do you think he would hurt me?" I considered the question before answering. I think frightened people sometimes protect secrets before they protect relationships. "I do not want to learn what that means by leaving you unprepared." Naya was quiet. Are you going to the closing? Yes. Can I come? Not unless you are ready to say what you saw in your own name. She ended the call without answering. On Thursday afternoon, Monica received the revocation. She called me 7 times. I did not answer until Solomon was beside me. Mama, what have you done? I revoked a document that should have been used to pay bills, not sell my home. Terrence says this could destroy the deal. Then he understands the document. She began to cry. Not loudly. Monica had learned in hospitals how to cry without losing the ability to speak. You could have talked to me. I did. You brought movers. She said the sale was for my care, that Terrence had done months of work, that Street Gabriel might walk away, that I was embarrassing the family. I asked one question, what is the second sale price? Silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was smaller. What second sale? Ask your husband. Terrence took the phone from her. Miss Lillian, you are reacting to documents you do not understand. I spent 40 years understanding documents men like you called too complicated for the people signing them. This is a standard acquisition structure. Then it should survive standard disclosure. His voice hardened. You are going to cost everyone a great deal of money. That was the first honest thing he had said to me. Closing remained scheduled for Friday morning because the parties needed to address the recorded dispute, the revocation, and the title objections formally. Solomon told me not to expect a courtroom victory at a conference table. What happens tomorrow then? The machinery stops, he said. After that, everyone has to explain why they built it. Before we left Solomon's office, he asked what I wanted if the transaction stopped. The question irritated me because I had been focused on what I refused. I told him I wanted my house, my authority, and enough time to decide what should happen to the other parcels without a deadline manufactured by somebody else's debt. He wrote that down. Anger can identify a violation, he said, but a court will still ask what relief you actually seek. I carried that question home with the files. It kept my plan from becoming revenge, dressed in legal language. I wanted control restored, not another person stripped of all choice. I packed the complete power of attorney, Dr. Holloway's report, the company filings, the public planning documents, the Riverside lien record, the voice memo transcript, and a chart showing the 2 proposed transfers. Last, I put Calvin's brass key in my coat pocket. I did not need it to open anything at the closing. I carried it to remember that the first door Terrence failed to account for had been inside my own house. The closing office occupied the 4th floor of a building with smoked glass and a lobby that smelled faintly of lemon polish. I arrived 10 minutes early with Solomon. The receptionist looked at my name, then at me, then checked the screen again. They were expecting Monica, not you, she said. That was the arrangement, I told her. Inside the conference room, Terrence sat beside Warren Pike. Monica sat across from them with her purse in her lap. An empty chair had been placed at the far end, perhaps for a representative from the title company. No one had set a place for me. Terrence stood. Miss Lillian, this meeting concerns a transaction Monica is authorized to handle for you. Solomon laid the revocation receipt on the table. She is authorized to handle nothing under that document as of yesterday afternoon. Terrence turned toward the closing officer. This is exactly the confusion we warned you about. Solomon placed Dr. Holloway's report beside the revocation. The independent evaluation found that Mrs. Price understands the property, the alternatives, and the consequences of this decision. I removed my coat. Needing help with a pillbox does not give anybody the right to sell the kitchen around it. The closing officer read the first page of the report, then looked toward Warren. We cannot proceed under the existing authority, she said. That was the first turn. Terrence did not look surprised for long. Men who make a living from negotiations learn to move their faces quickly. He said the report did not change the fact that Monica had executed the contract while the power of attorney remained active. I took the full original from my folder and placed it beside the copy in Warren's file. The 2 documents matched through the signature page. Then mine continued. I opened the attachment. Mr. Pike, I said, where is this page in the packet you submitted? Warren adjusted his glasses. The version provided to my office did not contain an attachment. Monica leaned forward. I never saw that page. And were you at Warren's office at 10 on the morning this certificate says you signed it? No. I was sitting in your kitchen until noon. Solomon explained that the original authority controlled, and a missing copy could not erase its limitation. The closing officer told her assistant to preserve every electronic version received. That was the second turn. Terrence reached for his green notebook, then seemed to remember he had not brought it into the room. His hand stopped beside an empty legal pad. He said the limitation did not apply because Cypress Meridian was an unrelated purchaser. I placed the Tennessee company record on the table. Cypress Meridian was formed 11 days before my family was told the property had a buyer. Warren Pike is the lawyer listed for official papers. Its address is the same suite used for legal work on Terrence's previous projects. Its bridge loan search identifies support connected to Ellison Urban Strategies. A professional relationship is not ownership, Terrence said. I agree. So show us the disclosure identifying your relationship with the buyer and any economic interest you hold in the transaction. He looked at Warren. Solomon opened the seller disclosure packet. The section for related interests was blank. Monica turned toward her husband. Do you have an interest in Cypress Meridian? Terrence answered without answering. My firm introduced capital and assisted with site control. That is normal in commercial development. You told me the buyer had nothing to do with us. I pressed play on her voice memo. Monica's own recorded voice filled the room, saying Cypress Meridian was independent, Terrence would receive no commission, and $4.8 million was the best available price. Then Terrence's voice came faintly from the background. Tell her the money keeps her safe for life. Monica stared at the phone as if it belonged to somebody else. That was the third turn. Warren said the meeting should stop until counsel could review the dispute. It has already stopped, the closing officer said. We are determining what must be preserved. I unfolded a one-page chart. At the top was the proposed purchase by Cypress Meridian for $4.8 million on October 31st. Beneath it was the planned transfer to Street Gabriel Regional Health for $12.6 million on November 1st. Terrence's expression changed before anyone spoke. Monica saw it. Terrence denied that any second contract existed. Nia entered the room. She had come alone, wearing jeans, a college sweatshirt, and the same frightened expression she had worn beside the yellow tab. This time she did not stand near the door. I scanned both sets of closing instructions, she said. The parcel descriptions were the same. Terrence rose halfway from his chair and told Nia this was not her concern. You made me delete a file because it was your concern. Solomon asked her to sit and speak, only to what she personally saw. She described the two prices, the consecutive dates, the Street Gabriel logo, and the notebook page she photographed. I placed the photograph beside the chart. 4.8, 12.6, Cure, Riverside. Terrence looked directly at me. Where did you get that phrase? I did not answer his question. I opened the public lien record for Riverside Lofts. $3,100,000 was due under the delayed enforcement agreement by the end of November. Joe Bell's preservation notice confirmed that the planned bridge transaction and proposed wire instructions were now under review through the bank's older customer protection and legal process. No private account details were read aloud. They did not need to be. The dates stood beside one another. The money from my property was supposed to cross Cypress Meridian, cure Riverside, replace what had been moved, and leave Terrence with enough to pretend none of it had happened. Monica's voice broke. Were you using Mama's land to pay your guarantee? Terrence turned on Warren. End this meeting. Warren did not move. That was the fourth turn. The closing officer stated that no funds would be dispersed. No deed would be accepted for recording through the file, and all communications and document versions would be retained. Street, Gabriel's representative, attending by telephone, said the health system had not been informed of any disputed power of attorney or related party interest. Their counsel was withdrawing approval pending investigation. Terrence said nothing. For the first time since I had known him, he had no sentence ready to make his needs sound like everybody else's responsibility. Monica covered her mouth. Nia sat straight, but her hands trembled against her knees. If you were sitting where I was, with the sale stopped and the truth finally on the table, would you protect the daughter who helped sign your home away because she had been deceived? Or would you let her answer for every choice she made? I already knew Terrence would face consequences. The harder decision was what truth required from Monica. Terrence found his voice. Monica, do not say another word. We are leaving. She lowered her hand. No. He stared at her. She unlocked her phone and placed it in front of Solomon. I have voice memos after every conversation about her care, she said. Dates, instructions, what Terrence told me, what I repeated to my mother. I will provide all of them. Terrence's chair scraped backward. You are destroying this family. Monica looked at him with tears on her face. You used my family as collateral. Nia opened her laptop. I kept the earlier copies, she said. I am the one who put the yellow tab in Grandma's packet. I am the one who photographed the notebook. Terrence looked from his wife to his daughter, searching for the version of the room in which fear still belonged to him. It was gone. I did not tell Monica she was forgiven. I did not tell Nia bravery erased the days she had remained quiet. I did not tell Terrence he had made a mistake. I said the only thing the moment required. The truth does not remove responsibility. It gives us a place to begin. The closing officer collected the copies already in the file. Solomon handed over the court, stamped notice, and the revocation receipts. Warren asked that future communication go through separate counsel. Terrence buttoned his jacket. His fingers missed the first button, then tried again. He walked out alone. The door closed without drama. No applause followed. No one declared me the winner. A disputed transaction had been stopped. Records had been preserved. Choices had been named. Monica remained seated across from me. The empty chair between us felt larger than the table. Mama, she whispered. I picked up Calvin's brass key and placed it beside my folder. Not here, I said. We will talk at home, where nobody gets to call this business. The house looked unsettled when we returned. Pale rectangles marked the places where pictures had hung. The dining room rug was gone. A strip of blue tape remained on Calvin's chair, with the word storage printed across it. Monica stood in the kitchen and did not remove her coat. I made tea, because some conversations need a task that keeps the hands from becoming weapons. She told me the truth in pieces. After my hospital stay, she had begun checking her phone every morning before work, afraid a neighbor would call to say I had fallen again. She drove across town 4 evenings a week, sometimes after 10 hours at the hospital. She resented me for refusing help, then felt ashamed of the resentment. Terrence noticed. He told her the land could pay for lifelong care. He showed her articles about older adults wandering from home, though I had never wandered. He described my questions as repetition, my caution as confusion, and my attachment to the house as evidence that I could not evaluate risk. He made every fear point toward the same solution. Why did you not ask for an independent assessment? I said. Because I was afraid you would pass it. The honesty of that answer hurt more than an excuse would have. She looked down at her tea. If you passed, I would have to admit I was not protecting you. I was trying to make the fear stop. She had signed the contract under the power of attorney. She had approved the movers. She had accepted Terrence's statement that the buyer was independent. She had never requested the company ownership papers, a second appraisal, or a written explanation of his compensation. Being deceived did not erase those choices. I opened Calvin's envelope. His letter was 1 page. He wrote that the land could change uses, and that he did not expect every board, nail, or parcel to remain untouched forever. Then he wrote 1 sentence about me. Do not turn Lillian's tired days into permission she did not give. Monica read it twice. Daddy knew, she said. Your father knew people avoid hard conversations until urgency chooses for them. He also avoided talking to you about the land. We all helped create empty spaces Terrence could fill. She asked whether I would ever forgive her. I said I did not know yet. Forgiveness is not a receipt you hand somebody because they finally admitted the price. It is a process, and sometimes the process ends with love living behind a locked door. For now, I gave her conditions. She would provide every voice, memo, text, email, and document. She would withdraw all instructions issued under the power of attorney. She would not manage my money, medication, appointments, transportation, or house. She would return her key. If she wanted a relationship with me, we would attend counseling and build it without Terrence translating either of us. Monica removed my house key from her ring. She placed it on the table and cried. I did not rush to comfort her. I sat with her quietly. The months that followed were not clean. The sale remained blocked, while lawyers, lenders, insurers, and investigators examined the records. Terrence's Riverside deadline passed without the money from my land. His business entered litigation. Warren retained separate counsel. I learned that justice mostly looks like certified mail, scheduled hearings, and people asking the same question in 6 different ways. Monica moved into a small apartment. Naya stayed with a friend until the first storm had passed, then returned to school housing. Neither of them asked me to rescue Terrence from consequences he had arranged for himself. Monica kept the counseling appointment. At first she spoke like a nurse giving shift report, listing facts in order so she would not have to name the feelings beneath them. Over time, she stopped saying we when she meant Terrence, and started saying I when she meant her own decisions. I did not reward every admission with reassurance. Some truths need room to remain uncomfortable. Still, when she asked before visiting, instead of arriving with groceries and instructions, I noticed trust did not return as a grand gesture. It returned as permission requested and boundaries respected. Visit by careful visit. I also made decisions that surprised people. I did not keep all 5 parcels unchanged. An independent appraisal and competitive process showed that 2 commercial lots could be leased or sold at strong value without giving up the house, the yard, or Calvin's shop. I accepted a long-term lease that let me keep 1 parcel and sold another through an open process with every fee disclosed. Part of the money repaired the rental houses. Part funded my care. Part went into a trust with clear rules for Monica and Nia. The trust did not place either of them in control of me while I was alive. I hired help 2 mornings each week. I let a neighbor drive after dark. I installed a rail beside the back steps. Accepting help did not shrink me. Choosing it made the difference. In April, I found the last inventory label beneath Calvin's reading chair. I peeled it away slowly. The adhesive left a pale square on the wood. I carried the label to the deed drawer and placed it behind the revoked power of attorney. I wanted 1 record of the afternoon my family tried to inventory my life while I was still standing in the room. Then I reorganized the drawer. The original deeds went into new sleeves. Calvin's letter rested behind the house survey. I gave every digital copy one of my long file names, including the parcel, date, document type, and person who had signed it. Nia no longer complained. Calvin's old upholstery shop reopened that spring, but not for car seats. Once a month, Solomon answered general questions about deeds and powers of attorney. Joe Bell explained warning signs of financial exploitation. I helped older neighbors sort copies, write timelines, and prepare questions for their own lawyers. We called it the clear title table. Nobody surrendered original documents. Nobody signed anything. Coffee was free, and advice beyond general education belonged to licensed professionals. On the morning of our first session, Nia arrived carrying a banker's box. Every folder had a full name. Every page had a date. She placed an application for the community college paralegal program on my desk. I submitted it yesterday, she said. Then she told me she had been the one who placed the yellow tab inside the closing packet. She had wanted to warn me without making her father choose between loving her and controlling her. She understood now that he had already made that choice. I took Calvin's brass key from my pocket. Nia held out her hand, then stopped. Is that mine now? No, I said. The house is still mine. The decisions are still mine. I laid the key across her palm. This means I trust you to read before you sign and to ask before you act for somebody else. Outside, the old shop sign still carried Calvin's faded name. I had considered replacing it. Nia asked me not to. Instead, she painted a smaller line beneath it. records, rights, and respect. Calvin would have called that too many words. Then he would have measured the letters twice. The first visitor that morning was a widow from 2 streets over. She carried a grocery bag filled with papers and apologized because nothing was organized. Nia pulled out a blank folder. I wrote the widow's full name across the tab. Then my granddaughter and I sat beside each other at Calvin's old work table, reading the first page together, while morning light came through the glass he had installed with his own hands.